Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Sarah. I'm a mindset mastery coach, transformational hypnotherapist, and attachment style specialist. And I just wanted to do a short video for you guys today. I've been thinking a lot about this and I've been talking to a lot of clients this week. And I want to talk about how we move on from a dismissive avoidant, how we move on from something that's so incredibly painful. Because a lot of you come to me and it's been years of just angst and years of pain and years of rumination, or even hoping that they're going to come back. This may be a tough video for some of you to hear, and you may even get triggered, but that's okay. That means I'm doing my job, and I really want you to hear me out because this can really help shift something inside of you to move forward. Okay, so let's just dive right in. So let's say that you were discarded, or you were discarded from, a relationship with a dismissive avoidant, or they just ejected themselves and disappeared. Kind of the same thing, right? Feels like you've been discarded. There's a reason we use that term. I wasn't so keen on it at first, and now I'm pretty keen on it. That's what it feels like, especially if you were love bombed. And you can watch my previous video that I did today where I talk all about how the dismissive avoidant tends to show up really strong in the beginning, wants to be near you all the time, wants to really connect with you, and is really loving and supportive and even really passionate, right? The sex is great, the intimacy is great. You feel like you're just connecting with this person on a deep level, and then suddenly something shifts, and suddenly you're like, wait a second, what is going on? Where did that person go? So so the first thing I want to say is that you're grieving so much. You're grieving the death of the person they were at the end. You're grieving the death of your potential future, the life that you were building together, but you're also grieving the person that showed up in the beginning. And I think that's most important to understand. You're grieving these separate deaths. And it can be so much harder to go through grief when that person is still alive. So you're grieving this person that's still alive, and maybe just like disappeared altogether on you. Maybe they're just like, maybe they hopped and skipped towns, or they left the state, or they left a country, and they didn't answer any of your questions. Maybe you never even got to have that final conversation. Many of you have told me you've been broken up with over text message, where the person is such a coward that they won't even show their face. It's very cowardly, right? It's not adult like to do that to somebody. That's a child that does that. Adults, we show up, we have the tough conversations, and we face it. We face each other. We face the pain that we've caused somebody, right? But the dismissive avoidant can act very cowardly in that sense. Ultimately, they're very insecure. Ultimately, this is a person that it's very sad. They grew up not really having emotional nurturing, not being nurtured, maybe having physical needs met. Like, they were fed, they were satiated in certain ways. They had a roof over their head and a bed, but it didn't feel warm, it didn't feel loving. They were, oftentimes prized, and really celebrated for their wins, their successes with school, with sports, etc., but not really for who they were. So it's like they've never really feel seen for who they were. They've never felt really accepted for who they were. And, it makes me sad even talking about it. But we have to make sure that we don't get caught up in feeling sorry for them at the expense of our own healing. Because at the core of these connections is self abandonment. We're both sort of self abandoning. The dismissive avoidant abandons, they cling on to you as, the hope for the person who's actually going to change the world and finally accept them and finally see them. And then, there's the self abandoning that takes place when you become the anxious person inside of this relationship, and you become codependent, and you're just like, I want to be with you at any expense. I don't care. I just want you back. I just want to be with you. But you're not really taking into account that your needs are not fulfilled, or your needs are not being met. So at the end of this relationship, some of you may even feel relieved, like, I can breathe again. I feel, where I was contracted inside of this relationship because I wasn't speaking my truth, or I was walking on eggshells. Now I suddenly feel like I can speak my truth, and I can live my life, and it can feel really freeing in the beginning. And then grief has a funny way of sort of catching up to you, and you're going about your day and you're just living your life, and suddenly you're like, oh, I miss this person. What's really happening is you're missing the attachment. That attachment wound is activated for some reason. Maybe you lost somebody in your life. Maybe you lost your job, or maybe you just are going through a transformation or transition, and you're like, gosh, I remember when this person was XYZ. I remember. You start to remember. The brain is brilliant at remembering the good things, and it's sort of like just packing away all the stuff that didn't work. I can't tell you how many times I've done that in my own healing process, in my own grieving process, as I move through a divorce. So we have to remember why we separated, even if it was their choice and you feel like it wasn't your choice. Was it really working out for your highest good? Was it really, really serving you? Chances are it probably wasn't. And even if you felt like it was, if this person had the ability to discard you down the line, because it was inevitably going to happen one way or the other, they were going to become so activated inside of that relationship that they eventually bounced anyway. So this was going to happen anyway. So, there's that saying, better to have it happen now than later. And I don't really know. That doesn't really make you feel better. Most of those isms don't really make us feel better. But I want you to really understand that your nervous system, right? The science of attraction, your nervous system attracted this person in the first place. And now that you're doing your work and starting to heal and understand, first cognitively and logically, and then later on, really embodying that healing, right, through various modalities like hypnotherapy, which is what I offer, and other modalities, then you will really start to become a different person. You will start to become securely attached, or at least lean more securely attached. And when you do that, what's going to happen is you'll no longer be attracted to the avoidance. And I think some of you fear that. I think that's scary. I know. I can so empathize with that. I felt the same way. Like, I don't want to lose this person. If I start to do my healing, I'm going to leave them behind. But here's the thing. If you don't do your work, you're leaving yourself behind. You're self-abandoning. What we see in another person, the things we love in another person, are really things we think we lack inside of ourselves. And the more work you do on accepting yourself, radical self-love, radical self-responsibility, taking a responsibility for everything, every action that you've, chosen in your life, every relationship that you've gotten into, you just take radical self-responsibility, that will free you. And you'll realize that you attracted this person and that you stayed with this person and abandoned yourself because you really thought that this person could give you something you couldn't give yourself. And that is not true. You have the ability to give yourself everything and more that person gave you. In fact, that person was incapable of giving you everything that you needed. Long term, anyway, it wasn't sustainable. Again, watch my other video from today, because in the beginning, they were able to show up in a certain way. By the end of that relationship, they could no longer show up in that way because they were overloaded. They were overwhelmed. Their nervous system was like, abort mission, eject, right? Like a fighter pilot, eject, abort mission. I have to get out of here. Where's my parachute? I'm going. I'll see you never. And sometimes that's the case, right? So if you know that this person may never come back, then the question I have for you is, how is the longing or pining or ruminating thoughts, how are they serving you? They're not. They're keeping you stuck. And we really only have this present moment. That's all we ever have. So let's get you unstuck. Let's stop those ruminating thoughts. Let's really stop them in their tracks and get you to a place where you can really come back to homeostasis, and whatever that looks like for you, because it's going to be different for all of you and all of us. But I want you to understand deeply that there was a role that you played in attracting this person. It doesn't mean you consciously were like, oh, I want to go through pain. I want to experience pain again. But many of you maybe have attracted narcissistic kind of partners in the past. Again, I use that term. I don't like to use it. I'm using it kind of loosely here, but, for lack of a better word. And those people, that attracted narcissistic partners then may have even gone through this experience, a spiritual awakening experience with the next partner. And then suddenly you're like, wait a second. And then you learn about attachment styles and attachment theory, and then it all makes sense. If you look back at your history of partners, you'll probably see that the history shows you that you had a tendency to attract emotionally unavailable partners. If you're anxious, you lean anxious, those are avoidant partners, right? In some way. Again, they can show up really secure in the beginning. But I really, really want you guys to understand that I am not at all saying, I blame you, this is your fault. It is not, but it is your responsibility. It's not our fault, the childhood that we had, the abuse or trauma we endured, but it is our responsibility to heal so that we stop hurting ourselves, stop making poor choices in love, and also stop hurting other people, and that we show up secure. And the last thing that you should be doing is trying to date right now. The last thing, okay? Avoidance, some of them do that, fine. They're not healing. They're just repeating cycles. It's a shiny new object. And that's going to fade as soon as that shiny new object has needs and wants. And guess what? They're going to be like, oh, that person's not my soulmate either, My ex actually said to me, I thought you were my soulmate. I was wrong. And I was like, are you shitting me? And I realized that he thought I was a soulmate when I didn't have any needs, when there was no rules, before we got married, when things were easy. We were in a bubble. We actually met in San Diego. We were literally in a bubble of paradise, right? So there were no needs that I was expressing at that time. But as time went on, I needed him, because it's healthy to need your partner in certain ways, right? Even a little bit of jealousy can be healthy. It's healthy to have certain needs and wants, and to need your partner to show up in a certain way for you while also showing up for yourself. But they don't know how to do that. That becomes it's like a burden to their nervous system. It's overburdening, overwhelming, and they don't know what to do, and they will shut down. And eventually they'll shut down altogether. They may even give you warning signs like, I'm going to shut down, and then they will. And then there's probably going to come a time where they don't know how to resurrect themselves from that. Even if they wanted to reach out or wanted to resurrect the relationship, they don't know how to do that because they don't have the tools to be able to do that. And they don't even know how to reach out to you at that point because they're probably embarrassed or mortified that they acted the way they did. You know, that they acted like a child or emotionally immature, or that they exploded on you, or that they disappeared on you. So you got to think about that. They have to be able to come to terms with themselves, forgive themselves, and then be able to look at you honestly and say, yeah, I did that thing, and that was really shitty. So I want you guys to really just be gentle on yourselves, first of all. Be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with your healing process. It takes as long as it takes. Get some help, whether it's with me or another therapist or a coach or whatever that looks like, a shaman. I don't fucking care, but help yourself. Spend that energy on yourself rather than looking back, hoping that this person changes. Because I'll tell you something, never in the history of the world does looking back, hoping somebody is going to change, ever get somebody to change. And the other thing is, because I've had so many of you say, I want to send them your channel, I want to send them your videos. Don't do it. I know the urge is so great. I get it. Take it from me. I did that. And all it did was serve to push him further away. It has to be their idea. They have to come to you and say, I've learned this. It cannot be your idea. They do not want to be pushed. They do not want to feel like they're being controlled. They need to do this on their own. And then imagine how wonderful that would feel if they come back to you. I don't know, let's say 5 years. I don't know. And they're like, I figured it out. I did my work, and they're a totally different person. But you didn't push them. They did it, and they came back because they wanted to. That's where you want to be. Can they change? Absolutely. They're human. Do they want to change? That's a different story. I don't know. Can I help you magically get your ex back? No. Nobody can. And honestly, that's playing games. It's manipulation. You don't want somebody back in that way anyway. They're not going to stay, and it's not going to stick. It's not going to work. The last thing that an avoidant wants is to be manipulated. That is like one of their biggest fears, to be manipulated. They're always going to try to control the situation. So again, until they heal, and even then they probably have a tendency. They're still going to have avoidant tendencies. You know, they're still going to have to really work at being emotionally aware and intelligent and really self-aware. They're going to have to work on that, just like you're going to have to work on whatever you're working through for the rest of your life, so that we can start to lean more secure, right? And that when we do get triggered, and when things do come up, that we're able to get back to that homeostasis quicker and quicker. All right, guys, have a beautiful day. Thank you for being here. Like, share, comment, subscribe. If you want that personal reading, book with me. I'm booking up real fast for the month of March, just FYI, and I only take a certain number of clients per month because I want to make sure that I don't spread my energy too thin with doing these videos, teaching in-person yoga here locally, and also personal sessions. So if you want to book with me, set up that discovery call. We'll see if it's a good fit. And I wish you all the very best. Take good care.